edition, there's only 776. So I've been doing these shows with you for 11 years, and I know that that's teeny tiny, itsy bitsy, already crazy. That there's only 776 ever available. U.S. Mint Pride of Two Nations set for under $500, $499.95.
This is something that we didn't even realize that the government was going to do this. So at the beginning of the year, we kind of plot the year out, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, the coins that the United States government is going to put out. And so they put out the Apollo things, which of course were just insane. January, February, March, Apollo was just doing everything. And then we had the innovation dollars started coming out, and then the proof dollar came out and all that. But the United States government, they haven't made a special finish American Silver Eagle for almost 10 years. 2013 was the last time they made a special finish. They've done, you know, a mint mark thing here or something like that, but a special finish coin they haven't done. Last one they did was a reverse proof coin in 2013, celebrating the San Francisco Mint. So this is the first United States government special issue, and they didn't tell us they were going to make it, because what they decided to do is they started to do a collaborative effort with other mints around the world.
Oh, really?
The very first one was with the Australian Mint. We don't even have any of the coins. They're all at the Australian Mint. You can't even buy them from the U.S. Mint. And it's not a silver dollar, it's a $half dollar, and then like a really kind of crazy Australian 50th anniversary Apollo, which is kind of cool. We're trying to get some. This came out 3 days ago. Pride of Two Nations, it's America and Canada. So they both did this, but here's the deal. And this is what we didn't know. We heard that they were going to do this Pride, they call it Pride of Two Nations. They're doing it with Australia, they're doing it with Canada, they're doing it with, I think, like England, they're doing it with Gibraltar. I mean, they're doing it with a bunch of these mints. But Canada, of course, being the closest one and having the same numismatic heritage as ours, and they did a Silver Eagle, but what they did is they did a Silver Eagle in a finish that they have never done before. They did what's called an enhanced reverse proof. They've done an enhanced uncirculated. There's lots of enhanced uncirculated. They've done reverse proof, but they've never done an enhanced reverse proof. So you can see where they've enhanced this so that Lady Liberty,
it looks like mirrored in stripes almost.
And mirrors and all of this. They've never done this. This is absolutely positively unique. They have never done an enhanced uncirculated silver coin.
Look how cool that looks.
Oh, it's absolutely
stunning. I've never seen anything like that.
Now here's the problem. It only comes in this 2-coin set, and it's sold out almost instantly from the government. The United States Mint only sold 100,000 sets. They went instantly, absolutely, positively, instantly. They sold out at only 100,000. Normally, when they do the special finish coins, they do 250,000. They did that in 2013, and they did it in 2012.
That's less than half the circulation.
Way less than half. The only coin that comes close to this was the second reverse proof. They did 100,000. They sold 100,000 of those. That coin in this condition is easily a $1,000 coin, but there's 4 reverse proof coins. This is the only enhanced reverse proof in the history of the United States Mint.
That's really cool.
And we only have 776 of these that we can do in first day of issue. Now, since it was a Pride of Two Nations, they did a maple leaf with this too. So the Canadian maple leaf, not to be outdone, if you notice, these are all like little maple leaves in here. Okay, isn't that cool?
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
It's so cool. And so they did a special finish coin that they've never done before. They did what was called a modified proof coin. So you've got a unique maple leaf along with a unique American Silver Eagle. You get the pair for $499.95. United States Mint release of the Canadian. And here's why we're saying United States Mint release. And Allison, if it's possible, if we can just flash the next item. The United States Mint sold 100,000 of these. The Canadian Mint only got 10,000 to sell. I've got some of the Canadian